Is it time to prepare for EMP? What is EMP, and why would we even be worried about it? When we come back, I'm going to explain to you why I'm a little concerned about it and what you can do to make a difference in your preps. All right, folks, welcome back. Now, I don't want to alarm or panic people, and I don't think there is a need for alarm or panic just yet. But I do feel that it's time to start thinking about possible ways that an EMP attack could affect us. I've never been a big believer in it's going to take us back to the Stone Age type stuff. But I do think that possibly if we were to have an EMP in the country, it would cause massive disturbances and disruption. So today we're going to focus on that, and we're going to talk about why I think we should be prepared for such an attack. Now, what is EMP? It's electromagnetic pulse. Normally, something like this would happen from a high-altitude nuclear burst. In other words, 10,000, 5,000 feet up in the air, boom, a nuke goes off. And what happens is the electromagnetic pulse would come and pretty much destroy any electronics that you might have. This could happen over a very, very wide range in the country. And with the recent balloon situation and the payload that little balloon was carrying, that could easily have been a EMP weapon. So the reason I'm concerned about this is because there have been numerous news articles. I will link one down below and show you, but there have been numerous articles about how a balloon could be called the perfect weapon for a nuclear EMP attack. And this is from MSN, but there are bunches of others like this, similar. I'm going to read you the talking points of it really quick, and then we'll get into what you can do to be better prepared for it. High-altitude balloons like China has floated over the mountain state military bases this week are considered a key delivery platform for a secret nuclear strike on America's electrical grid. Balloons like this were used by Japan during World War II to drop bombs. Now they're more sophisticated and can fly up to 200,000 feet, evade detection, and carry a small nuclear weapon that, if exploded in the atmosphere, would shut down the grid and wipe out all electronics in a very wide state area. So we're talking about multi-wide states. In other words, let's say you're over Montana and you do this, you're probably going to get part of Canada and part of the middle of the country if you do it. So, in 2015, a report from the American Leadership and Policy Foundation, run by Air Force Major David Struckenberg, he's one of the leading EMP experts in the country, wrote extensively about the threat. Using a balloon as a WMD, this is him talking, platform could provide adversaries with a palette of altitudes and payload options with which they could maximize offensive attacks on the U.S. A high-altitude balloon could be designed, created, and launched in a matter of months, and there's nothing to prevent several hundreds of pounds of weapons-grade material from being delivered at altitude. So when you start to see this kind of stuff, this drumbeat in the media, it almost feels kind of like foreshadowing. It's like they know something and they don't want to tell us, you know? It's like, so there really isn't much to do extra for an EMP attack. There are a few things you can do extra, but as a general rule, there really isn't a ton more to do that you haven't already thought of as a prepper. Now, if you're a new prepper, don't panic. This is very, very simple to do. These are just some things that I kind of went over in my head and I thought about, and these are some things that I think would come in handy. So what I'm going to do is go over each little thing, and I'll move it away as we cover it so we have a little more room on the table, because as you can tell, it's pretty crowded here. So let's get into the first thing that I think is going to be really important. All right, so the first thing I'm thinking about is keeping clean. Let's face it, during an emergency or disaster and the chaos an EMP weapon could cause, we kind of want to stay clean, right? Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking of is a way to wash your clothing. And I do have a couple 12-volt washing machines. You know, they're the kind you fill up with water and they sit on the counter and they spin around and then they spin it dry. But again, that's electrical. We want to think about things that don't have electronics in them. These things work incredibly well. As a matter of fact, for a long while, they were all I used to wash my clothing when I worked in a restaurant. You can put about 5 or 6 pairs of pants in here, maybe 4. Let's be realistic. 5 or 6 shirts in here, and pour in you want hot water, a little bit of soap, not much, a little bit. And there'll be instructions with this to do it. And you're just going to take this and seal it up. They have older ones that used to screw down. Those kind of tended to mess up. So they've created a new lid for these, where you'll just put this on like this, turn it, and lock it down into place right up top there. Very, very easy to use. Just requires a little bit of elbow grease. you're just going to turn this thing. You turn it about 20, 30 times. You let it sit. You turn it a little more, and you let it sit. And how it works, basically, is the hot water builds up pressure inside here, and the pressure pushes the dirt out of your clothing. If you think that's baloney, put a dirty rag in here, it's hot water and soap, and see how dirty that water gets. There is a drain in here that connects to the bottom. See that little bottom piece there? That will drain out your dirty water. You put in clean hot water. You do it again for a rinse cycle, and maybe one more time depending on how dirty it was. And there you go. So that is the Wonder Wash. There are bunches of these on Amazon. I have one in my store. If you want to go check my Amazon store, you can check it out down there. Very easy to use. Doesn't require any electrical devices whatsoever. It does require hot water, so you may need to heat up some water using a non-electric stove. And it does require the fact that you might need some soap. So again, as a prepper, you've already stocked up on maybe a stove and a little extra laundry soap, so you're pretty well set. Let me move this out of here. Let's move on to the next item. Next up is going to be light. We don't want to be sitting in the dark. Your really fancy backup LED emergency lights or your high-tech flashlight may not work all that well after an EMP attack. And that's something you need to think about. It's an electronic device. It might not work. So, as a prepper, you probably already got some oil lamps somewhere. And you probably might even have one of these little Coleman old-fashioned pump-up white gas lanterns. You also want to think about cooking. Like I said before, if you've got an electric stove, which we have, and being that the government's trying to mandate them for everybody, you probably have an electric stove. If you don't, you're lucky, because I love gas stoves, but that's what we got here. We got electric. So if you might want to think about a way to cook, and there's a bunch of ways to do that. Also, too, for lighting, stock up on glow sticks. These are very, very handy. You can get really big ones now from Amazon, like big, long 12-inch ones you break, and they're just brighter than anything. That's a safe way to light up without having to worry about anything burning. Again, homemade little alcohol stove. It cost me 99 cents for the cat food, which my cats ate, and I think 47 cents for the tomato sauce. A little bit of carbon felt around there. There you go. I got my own pot stand in the middle. Put your pot on there. It burns around the outside. Again, titanium. We just covered this one, the Kuvik titanium snap together stove. You may not want to cook outdoors. You may want to cook inside, and that's why these are the safest option. Alcohol is a very good, safe fuel to use indoors. If you want to get even a little fancier, I have a Coleman Exponent white gas stove in here. Let me pull out the extra thing. That's so you can use gasoline with it, unleaded gas. But this is for the white gas. And these are fairly easy to find around. You can even buy a current one. Again, any way you can find, even a two-burner propane stove, like a camp stove, any way you can find to cook indoors or outside is a good way to think about, getting prepared and getting ready. Because, let's face it, you're not going to have a way to cook if the electricity is out, if the power grid is down, and you're on an electric stove. So, definitely things to think about. Lighting is very, very important. Everybody thinks, I don't care if it's dark, until they're sitting in the dark during some kind of national emergency or disaster. It can get spooky. It can get weird. So that's why I'm saying get yourself a way to light, and a way to cook your food. That will definitely help you out after an EMP attack. All right, let's move on to the next item. So next up, you want to think about a water filter or a water purifier. Municipal water systems might fail. Personal wells may not be able to be pumped because your pump is no longer working. So first of all, you want to store water. Now, of course, you don't want to just store one of these. You want to store it in large containers, as large as you can do. You can store it in everything from a 5-gallon container you buy at the store to a 55-gallon drum. They have gone up in price quite a bit lately. There's just always a way to store some good, clean water. Even your little 2-liter soda bottles, save them, rinse them out really well, store water in them. They also make excellent food storage things too once you dry them out. I have a couple options here for water filtration. This is a ceramic 4-stage water pump. This guy right here, you'll connect your hose to here and your hose to here, and you'll pump the water through. This is a very, very good option. This filters out a whole lot of stuff. Then we have the Grail water filter as well. If you're looking for a more portable option, something like this comes in handy, where you just literally unscrew it and you have the filter inside here, which you will push down on. Okay, you put your dirty water in here. There's your filter cartridge, and I would suggest picking up a couple extras. There's your filter cartridge, and of course you're going to be putting this like this. And you want to kind of do it like this, not cover the top, so you don't have a suction. Just push down like that. And of course, with water in there, there'll be some more resistance. There's your clean water. No need to worry about anything. You just put this on and carry it, and you can drink it. So if you have a water source nearby, say you got a little lake in the backyard you're running through, or a little river somewhere near you, that's an excellent solution. If you're looking for more of a larger water filter, something like that will work, the pump. There are entire family water systems that I've demoed before, where you just have a big bucket that sits up top and it runs through a bunch of filters. There's always a way to filter water, and as preppers, we should have a water filter already, right? Now, I'm not talking just a life straw. You want a full-size water filter, something like this or this, something that will actually filter and purify the water, because remember, those municipal water systems may be down. Again, you have your miniature stoves or alcohol stoves, whatever. You could boil your water and purify it as well. So, store water and a way to purify it. Let's move to the next item, and this one is one I didn't bring out here because it's too big for the camera, but we're just going to talk about it really quick. Waste disposal. Whether you have a 5-gallon bucket and a bunch of garbage bags, or you have, like I have, which is a chemical toilet that you'd actually put into an RV that will hold 5 gallons of water in storage, and I believe the waste is 6 or 7 gallons, and it can be drained out through a gray water tube. It's definitely something to think about. How are you going to use the restroom after, when your water systems aren't running? So that's something to think about, definitely very important. You don't want to get sick by having your waste get contaminated in your food, whatever. Have a designated way that you can dispose of waste after some kind of an event. And as preppers, again, that's something we should have already. All right, let's move on to the next item. I'm going to bring you over to this side of the room here, and we're going to take a look at it. Transportation. Now, I know you're looking at me going, dude, that's an electric bike. It's going to get wiped out in the EMP attack. Well, number one, maybe it won't. Number two, if it does, guess what? It's still a bike. Yeah, it's a little bit heavier than a regular bike, but you can always take the batteries off and use it as a regular bike. Whole lot less to push around without those batteries on it. So have a alternate transportation system, maybe a cheap little 50cc scooter, something that doesn't rely on a bunch of electronics to get started. A scooter with a kickstart. A lot of them have the ignition now, but they also have a kickstart. So if the ignition gets screwed up, who cares? You got your Kickstarter, you can get it going. So an e-bike is a valid option. I love mine. I'll tell you, it's great for short little trips to the store and stuff like that. Having a way to transport yourself around after an attack that has multiple options. Like if I'm sitting in here and this thing, it goes off and this thing still runs. Hey, I got a way to charge this thing 9 ways to Sunday. I got solar. I got battery backups all over the place. I got my solar stuff all over here. I got a way to charge this stuff. Now, again, my solar stuff may not work, but I do have solar panels, and they're not going to get screwed up by this because they're in the other room, locked down, hidden away somewhere, probably very well protected. So whatever there is, if the bike doesn't run, it's still a bicycle. It's still a way I can get around. If I have to go up to the emergency operations center here in town for ham radio stuff, I can get there. Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult. I haven't ridden a bike all that much in the last few years, except recently. But you know what? I can get there. I got transport. So think about an alternative way to get around after an EMP attack. Your car, how many cars are run by 99% computers these days? Chances are, it probably would have a problem. The electric vehicles like Teslas and such, yeah, they're going to have a bit of a hard time if something like that were to happen because they're all computer controlled. And that's the biggest thing that this messes with is the computers and the electronics. All right, let's get back over to the table and we'll finish up. All right, now next up, we want to talk about tools. Now again, as a prepper, you should have a good knife. Maybe even a way to sharpen it. I happen to love these little, as you can tell, mine is very well worn. I probably got it about 6 years ago. Thing's still going strong, still working great. It's a little sharpener, works sharp, a little portable sharpener. Of course, I have better sharpening methods, but for quick down and dirty sharpening, this thing works very well. Fire kit, a way to start fire. Again, I don't think your lighters are going to be affected by EMP, but your lighters may run out after a point. This has a bunch of different fire tools in it, ferro rods, all sorts of tinder, everything. So tools are important, maybe an axe, maybe a saw, a way to cut down damaged trees if the attack was more than just an EMP attack. Having some tools already put away is a good idea and definitely can come in handy. So just a side note, another thing we want to talk about is cash. That's why I have this out here. No, it's not a ton of cash, but it's in smaller denominations. I always tell people if you store cash, store it in smaller denominations so that a store, if you're using it, doesn't have to make change. It's very, very simple to take, how much is that? Well, $4. You know what? Keep the dollar. Instead of me having 100 and going, oh, do you have change for that? They may not. Registers may not work. And again, a lot of this is unknown. We don't know how it might affect us. But as preppers, we prepare for the unknown. So keep some cash lying around in smaller denominations. Again, whatever you can afford. Think about, I like to think about 2 or 3 weeks worth of grocery shopping money. If I spend $150 a week at the store buying incidentals, odds and ends, paper towels, cat litter, stupid stuff, have that money put aside. Maybe even a little bit of cash so you can pay your bills. Because you know what? The electricity may stop, but the bill won't. So it's unfortunate, but it's true. We all know that. So having some cash on hands can be used. Now, cash as a long term, let's say this EMP hit was hard enough to knock us down for 6 months. Cash probably isn't going to hold its value. But for immediately, for right away, definitely have some cash put away. All right, let's move on to the last few items here. All right, next up, we're going to talk about protection for some devices that you want to keep okay, alive, and functioning after an EMP attack. Some of these things this thing's made by SLNT, Silent, I guess. These are EMP-proof bags, okay? These normally have come in my battle boxes and crate club boxes, but they make an excellent product. I'm going to show you that's got a radio in it too. I just have dual band ham radios in here. You could pretty much put anything electronic that you don't want to be damaged in here, and as you can tell, these are quite sealed well. So basically they roll up and seal. Inside here I have my extra ham radio. I have another one in there. The neat part about these particular ham radios, especially the new Chinese 25 watt mobile rigs, is they kind of go a little bit out of band, so you can kind of, not legally, but you can kind of get GMRS frequencies on them too. So if you have a GMRS license and a ham license, one radio can do all that for you. So these bags are really awesome. They're not super expensive, but let's say you want to do this on your own. Well, you can build yourself a Faraday cage out of an ammo can. I am going to link both the article and the video I did making this very can below in the description so you can check it out. This basically is an ammo can. I have stripped out the rubber and replaced it with tin foil to make a full connection here, closed electrical loop. I have the cardboard on the sides and the top to insulate anything in here. And what do I have in here? Well, an extra flashlight, a shortwave radio, the little SDR radios. These are really handy and it's small enough to fit in there. So it's an AM/FM shortwave radio so I can gather information. I have a little miniature television. This is actually a digital television. I don't think I've ever reviewed this on the channel because I've had it for years, but it is a portable digital television. So I can watch news reports. I have a handheld Baofeng, what are these, UV9, I believe? 9R, and a couple extra batteries. You will notice I did disconnect the antenna, not only for size purposes, of course, but because I don't want another way for that EMP to get into the radio, another vector. So this has been taken off, and you just stick it in there, and you're good to go. So that's a way to protect your stuff. Again, these are very simple to build. It's just cardboard on the inside to insulate, so nothing's touching metal. A way to close the circuit electrically around the top here, and this on the top here just to protect it when it's getting bounced around. And you see, you can put quite a bit into a little 30 caliber ammo can. All right, I did forget the TV. But you can stick quite a bit in there and be pretty well sealed up and secure. And there you go. And it doesn't really scream too much, other than it's an ammo can. So definitely a way to keep your devices safe. We're going to talk about food, of course. Having some basic canned food. Again, representation, but I love my Spam. Having some Spam. Again, having long-term storage. These are the new things from Nutrient Survival. Their link is down below in my links. This is very high dense nutrient packed food. Very tasty, as a matter of fact. And this has a 15-year shelf life, 9 servings in the bag. It's a big bag. So it's a way to store food kind of in a bag situation. What I like about the bags is they're easy to hide. I can take a cardboard box, stuff it in my closet, with a bunch of these types of bags from anybody, from freeze-dried wholesalers, wherever, Mountain House, if that's the easiest way you can do it, and put them away, stuff them in there, and forget about them. As long as I have water stored to hydrate them, I'm good to go. Again, Spam, any kind of canned meat, you're good to go with. So having some food. The last place you want to be during an EMP disaster or right after it's been announced and all the power's out and people are going nuts is in a grocery store. My luck, I'll probably already be shopping for my shopping day, and I'll be in there already. I always seem to do that back when the first of the month was the busiest day of the year here. I always seem to be like driving into the parking lot going, why is it so busy today? Oh, it's the first of the month. So yeah, my luck, I'll probably be in the store when it happens. But you don't want to be if you can avoid it. Remember my saying, survivalists survive by staying out of survival situations. You don't want to have to run down to the store and go, I'm going to go shopping now. There's an EMP in Wisconsin, No, you want to stay home and already prepared for it. And again, this is stuff as a prepper you probably already have. Okay, let's move on to the last couple of items I want to talk about. And that is, last two items, medical. Definitely have your medical gear. If you need prescription meds, definitely check out Jace Medical. They are able to prescribe you pretty much any kind of emergency antibiotic you need. Again, it's a over-the-internet consultation. You'll talk to a doctor. You'll get the emergency antibiotics you need. Again, I just have a basic kind of loadout here of emergency antibiotics. One per person for the family member will be enough to take care of you for quite a while. Again, if you need specialty stuff, if you're on some kind of unusual drug that keeps you alive, talk to your pharmacist, talk to your physician, see if there's a way you can stock up on it. If you're on some kind of pain medication, research alternatives. They're not going to let you stock up on opioids. If you take oxycodone for pain, and there are plenty of people who take it legitimately for pain. I don't want people to think that everybody takes it as a druggie. There are plenty of people that take one a day for the pain they're in, for back pain and issues like that. If you take that stuff, talk to your doctor and see what you can have for alternatives. There are certain weeds that grow wildly that are like more powerful than morphine, if you know how to extract it and get it done. So definitely look into that. I do have some potassium iodide out here. The reason I have that is because there will be radioactive fallout with something like this, possibly. It could shift, it could go wherever. These are not radiation pills. I don't want people to think that they can pop these and walk into Chernobyl. No, they're not. What they do is they block the radioactive uptake in your thyroid. They basically flood your thyroid so nothing else can get in. And they block you from getting thyroid cancer. They are not going to keep you from being sick from radiation in other ways, but they are a handy thing to have. You'll notice if you live by a nuclear plant, sometimes they'll hand these out for emergencies. A good basic medical kit. This is a good trauma kit here, and this is from Rhino Rescue, but you can pretty much pick them up from anywhere you want. There's going to be some severe injuries after something like this. Imagine the car accidents with no street lights, especially in my town. If you locals will know what I'm talking about. We seem to be a demolition derby out here. Imagine the injuries, people running over each other to race into the store, or maybe somebody got hurt during the blast or disaster or whatever. Have a good stock trauma kit and over-the-counter first aid meds as well as antibiotics. And with Jace Medical, that's possible now. And my link will be down below. You can even save $10 using my code on this one. It's possible now. And they're going to start doing more stuff. They're going to start getting into individual meds that they can prescribe to you over the internet. They are, in the USA, they are licensed pharmacists and doctors that are prescribing this stuff to you. Your name will be on the bottle. It's legit. It's not like you're going to have some, it's not going to say like fish penicillin. No, this is legitimate stuff. Lastly, and this is kind of important, we all kind of get lazy, myself included, using the internet for everything. If I have a question about what's the best kind of edible plant, what do? I go and look it up online. That information isn't going to be there if there is a high altitude EMP. The internet could be down, your computers could be down, the power could be off. That information may not be available to you. So stock up on written stuff, stock up on books, I have some basic stuff here, first aid and survival. This is, if you can find this, my book is falling apart here, but I found this in a surplus store. Soldier's Manual of Common Tasks. As strange as it sounds, this actually does have some really good information in it for basic prepping and survival, as well as all sorts of other stuff as well. How to use a gas mask with the water. I mean, there's just so much stuff in here. Maintain your protective hood. Just all, you know, there's stuff that we'll never use, of course, because we're not military, but there is a ton of stuff in here that is very handy. Family Emergency Handbook. This is a very good book, very underrated. There's a lot of good common sense in this book. And lastly, and I'll show you what this is in a sec, this one here, Making the Best of Basics. All sorts of storage advice, recipes, iodine treatment, how to make soups and basic stuff, powdered bread, milk, all this stuff in here. Great book and not very expensive. What I have here is something I've compiled. Over the years, I have run into a lot of good articles. Here's some stuff on food, different ways I can prep food. Here's a section on water. I printed out the articles because remember, the internet isn't going to be there for you, maybe. And even during regular disasters, the internet isn't going to be here. So you make yourself your own miniature survival manual. There's all sorts of little projects you can do here. There's all sorts of little type of connectors for batteries, navigation information, different types of weapons repair that I might run across during an emergency, all sorts of stuff. And these are very handy. I have 3 of these now, okay? Buy yourself a 3-ring binder. When you find a good article, say, you know what? That would make a good article post-collapse. I'm going to print that out. So definitely think about books. Emergency preparedness stuff. Very, very handy after a disaster. You can't remember everything. You want to try, but you can't possibly remember everything. So definitely have books and information printed up for you. Anyway, that is the video for today. I hope you guys got something out of it. Again, if you have more stuff that you think would be very handy during an EMP event, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Share the video with your friends and family. I don't think the risk of this is imminent, but I think China has kind of said, look what we can do. And that could lead to something more in the future. So I think it's definitely something we need to start planning in our preps. I never was a big believer in EMP. Not that I didn't believe it could happen. I was never a big believer in putting all my eggs in that basket and prepping for it. But to some extent, as you can see, I'd be pretty well set up. Even with my e-bike, yeah, the motor may not work. Yeah, the batteries may be toast. It's still a bicycle. I can still pedal. And believe me, I've been practicing doing that when I ride it because I want to get my legs back in shape. I go to the gym often, but I definitely want to get used to that cardio of running on a bike. And even when I go to the gym, I've been riding the bike to get used to that. So definitely some things to think about. Again, I don't think this is going to happen any minute, but it's definitely stuff to think about now in the future. Think about moving away from some of your preps from electronic stuff and moving towards back to manual type devices that won't be affected. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Do share the video with your friends if you feel they'd be interested. We have our links down below. A lot of the stuff that I've shown you today is in my Amazon affiliate store, but if you just want to go there and shop as you normally would, doesn't cost you anything to do that. Click the link, go there, shop as you normally would. We really do appreciate that. When you do that, it helps us out a whole lot. Our freeze-dried wholesaler link, again, awesome food for food storage, very easy to pack away. It's not going to get any cheaper. You know, people complain that freeze-dried food is expensive, but you're paying for that shelf life, and you're paying for the packaging and the way it's put away so that you know that 25 years from now, or in this case, 15 years from now, I can open this up, and this stuff's going to be fine and perfect and ready to use. Down below, we also have our nutrient survival link if you're interested in getting stocked up on some nutrient survival. I do like their food. I kind of lost touch with them for a while, and I've kind of moved back in, you know, and showing some of their items, and they have an amazing array of stuff now. Much, much bigger than their previous inventory, so definitely check them out. That link will be down below as well. Our Patriot Supply, my Patriot Supply link, that's preparewithiridium.com, another excellent way to get stocked up on food. We've got the 3-month kit on sale for $200 off this month, and the 4-week kit on sale for $50 off, so check them out as well. And our Thrive Life freeze-dried food store. Again, these are the companies I trust with my own personal food storage, so I think you probably can trust them too. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching. Stay safe and stay prepared.